Today on The State of Us, the 5 stages of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. The 2024 presidential election has voters passing through the famous 5 stages of grief, according to Lance Morrow. That's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So the author contends that he's currently somewhere between anger and bargaining, and he hopes never to arrive at number 5. The sequence unfolds on today's show. So we're going to talk about each of those stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Welcome to The State of Us. I'm your host, Justin T. Weller, joined today by the one and only, your friendly redneck liberal and the senior resident historian here at True Chat, Mr. Lance Jackson.
Kick off your shoes, take a seat on the couch, lay back, and get ready for your 35-minute therapy session here on the upcoming election.
So, denial. Out of 332 million people in the most powerful country in the world were forced to choose between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Impossible, the author claims. Impossible. So this is the denial stage, right?
We don't believe it, right? There's no way. We already lived through this. It's not going to happen again. It can't happen again.
It is worth mentioning, partly because it's almost like, I feel like when I talk about it, we almost skip over this, but you do have to think about that. 332 million people in the United States of America, and we're forced to choose between...
You're trying to be serious, and Levi's dying over there.
Yep. And here he was. He's worried about the dog, and he's hacking up his lungs.
He can't even think.
Our dog's sleeping.
Our 18-year-old intern can't. He didn't even participate in the last election, and he can't even handle the thought. He's grieving already.
Yeah, he's just that repulsed. It's causing an allergic reaction. So, but really, I mean, 332 million people.
So you never really gave that some thought.
And you've got what's the percentage there, Lance, on that?
I don't know. It's too many decimal points. Yeah, too many zeros.
These are the folks that
Not the
get
same
chosen.
number of zeros in front of that percentage as my paycheck every week.
Well, and the other thing that makes you sort of deny this is, I mean, this would only be the second time in U.S. history, right, that a sitting president will face in an election a former president. It only happened once before, right?
Yeah, Grover Cleveland.
Trivia time.
Well, it's Grover Cleveland and Benjamin Harrison, but are those the only ones?
That's right.
I did not realize that. I mean, I knew it. I knew those
only
two.
Only time that it's ever happened where a sitting president is running for re-election and is likely, I mean, granted, folks, right, we haven't done the primaries yet, so it is possible that something will change, but is likely to face a former president who he already had previously beat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's...
B10.
Yes, B10. Yes.
Well, there you go, folks. I mean, it's another historical moment because for the people who don't remember, we had good old Grover Cleveland. And then we got Benjamin Harrison, and then we got Grover Cleveland again. So if you looked on your presidential chart in your history class and when you were in high school, there was Grover Cleveland, and he was either on there twice or he had the numbers 22 and 24 under his name because he was president, he lost, and then he won again. So that's your quick historical reference there to what Justin was teasing. Do you think a lot of this denial is because Trump defeated Hillary and we were all just out of sorts about that election in general? And then we had the Trump-Biden 1, and now we have a Trump-Biden 2. So it's not as simple as...
Well, right. It's not just the fact that a sitting president is facing a former president, which in and of itself is unique because, like we talked about, only happened once before out of all of our presidential contests. So that is unique. But then there's also the history, right, of this that makes it all the more unbelievable.
3 presidential elections for Trump in a row.
Right.
He won, he lost, and he's going to run again, right? 3. we
BT
before Trump
Okay.
won, it was Biden for 8 years as the vice president for Obama.
That's right. Well, that's what I
and now he's coming back. So it's like,
every
how
time
long
we've talked
have we
about
looked at
this,
these people?
that's
I
right.
mean, it's like,
oh
my God, Biden's been around for 20 years in the Oval Office,
Yep.
and Trump just seems like he never wants to leave. And it's like, can we get some fresh blood in here? I mean, to your point of when you stop and think about it, for Levi, he doesn't know anybody but Biden and Trump
which is just
in the White House. I mean, he's 18 years old,
sad.
and that's all he knows. Now,
That's sad.
Biden was the vice president for 8 years. He wasn't the president.
I know.
But he was in the picture,
Yep.
He wasn't
the only people.
He wasn't a Kamala Harris vice president. How many
Wow. Shots are fired.
Wow. Walk down the street and tell me how many people could tell you who the vice president of the United States is right now.
So question is Kamala Harris joining Joe Biden's ticket for re-election?
I don't think he can afford to change. I'm not sure he can pull an Abraham Lincoln.
Can he afford anything?
Yeah, and change.
So that leads us into the next one, which is anger. Rawr.
I think I was getting there.
That's exactly.
I went from denial to anger.
The stages, progressive
Can you believe
stages.
this? Oh my goodness. I mean, for 20 years, we've had Biden, Trump, Biden.
Blood pressure rises. Curses. The gnashing of teeth. My mother used to say that if Richard Nixon was elected, she'd move to Canada. But if we all moved to Canada, we'd have Justin Trudeau, who is hardly an improvement. So that's the author's quote there. Nothing for our Canadians listening. Maybe you love Justin Trudeau. Granted, you also have fewer choices than we have too, because we have 105 million people who are theoretically 105 million U.S. citizens who are eligible to be president of the United States. Canada's only got like 30 million total people. So, just by sheer luck, you don't have quite the selection that we've got.
Totally off topic, but I was going through some things in my room because at home we're trying
Which room? You got a lot of rooms.
Yeah, well, my room
Your room.
Yeah, it has all my stuff in it because we're trying to downsize. And I was going through pictures, and I've got a 5x7 that says Jackson for president, and it's a picture of me.
Yeah?
Yeah, a couple of my students made that and campaign
well,
for me.
you are somebody that would be eligible to run.
That's what made me think of that.
The other two people in the room are not eligible to run.
I came across that picture last night, so I've already got a campaign poster ready.
Well, might as well jump in because how many are on the Republicans or on the Democratic or whichever side, the Republican side? Isn't there like already 14 in the race on the Republican side?
Oh, for the primary season?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you count all, but are they?
I know.
The question there is, how many of them will even be eligible for the debate stage? And then the whole question, now we're getting off the article, but Trump's saying he's not even going to show up for the debate.
So we're going to have...
I've been the president before. You know what I do. I'm not debating anybody.
Well, and does anybody watch a debate?
And it's working.
If the front runner is not in the
right.
debate?
Well, and it's working.
And that's the question, right?
I mean, he's got like 50-some%, right? Over 50% of Republicans. So why would he debate? I mean, he's from a position of power.
Yeah.
And yes, to your point, who's going to watch the other 6 or 8 that get the funding to make the stage listen?
Better be a slow night on TV.
When over half
streaming
of the
services
Republican
will need to be crashed that night.
Voters are already behind Trump.
Have you?
So should DeSantis quit and start again?
Because that'll yield a better result.
Is it a reboot?
Ugh.
I'm just thinking of technology today. Maybe
here's the thing, though, right?
Reboot of a candidacy.
And you and I talked about this, and I'd like our listeners to.
I mean, there are two.
To throw some names.
There are 2 Democrats running against Biden.
Yeah.
Can't name either one of them, but there are 2. So I mean, there is a possibility, right?
Well,
am I still in the deniability stage there? I
one of those 0.00001% chance of these other people who 2 people that follow politics can't name.
Okay. So where's
running?
Where's the thought of it's still a year away? Something else could happen.
Bargaining.
Is that bargaining?
There must be a way we tell ourselves. The mind succumbs to magical thinking. I imagine a joint press conference in which Mr. Trump and Biden announce to an astonished world, quote, the good of the country and our personal honor demand that we both step aside so that American politics and government may refresh themselves. As of today, each party will be free to bring forth a field of younger candidates to compete for its nomination. It's the way the American people want and what sanity demands.
I don't wish either one of them ill will, but I mean, we are talking about some old people, right? I mean, I'm old, but they're really old.
So the other thing in bargaining, right, is this notion of, to exactly what you brought up, is something going to happen to them maybe before they can be elected? And one of those things, obviously in Trump's case, right, is the legal side of what's going on. We really haven't done a show yet that's devoted to this, so I guess it's as good a time as any to ask the question, does any of it matter? I mean, did we not have the show, about Trump when he made his lovely statement about, you could shoot somebody in Manhattan and it wouldn't make any difference to his supporters? Now, there's saying that, and there's supporters supporting you when you say that, and then there's when you actually pull out the gun and shoot somebody, right? So now, all of that said, I'm not saying that that's what Trump's done, just to be clear. But I'm saying it's this notion of, does it make any difference if some of these trials happen? And there's an important premise here, right? Not instead of, but not just if the trials happen, but if the trials happen and he's convicted, found guilty, does that make a difference? We're going to answer that question. Keep it here on The State of Us, and we'll be right back. There must be a way out. It can't possibly be Trump v. Biden again. Didn't we already do that?
We're bargaining.
Is this
now.
deja vu? So we're bargaining. And part of bargaining is this notion, right, of isn't there some other way? And the most logical means would be that something happens and one or both of these two, for whatever reason, have to drop out. And oh, gee, we're all saved from this reality that we don't want. So one possibility that we have to discuss, right, is, because we really haven't so far on the show, is these lawsuits that are mounting against Trump. There's a number that have already been filed, more, that are expected and on the way. Let's say that, this trial happens in January, and maybe by mid-February, and this is a big if, because it's quite possible that this doesn't happen, right, and that something changes. But let's say by mid-February, you've got a jury of Trump's, quote unquote peers that have found him guilty of this. Does that matter though? I mean, in our bargaining, will that actually make any difference?
Nope.
You don't think so?
No, it's free publicity. He's getting his name
it might hurt, but it helps.
The press.
And if there is any hurt, it's offset by the help.
Right. I mean, when I open up the newspaper and I listen to the news accounts, there's a little sidelight of, Biden's out in Hawaii, but there's 4 articles about the indictments against Trump in New York and Georgia and elsewhere. And now Rudy Giuliani's taking stage and he's going to be indicted, the front man for all of the saying it. But I don't think so. I mean, in all seriousness, I don't think it'll matter, because those supporters of Trump will just say it's fake news, it's rigged, drain the swamp, all of those sayings. They'll just now have real reasons to be saying it instead of just being campaign slogans. They'll point to this and say, see, they're just out to get our guy. Nothing's going to stop us from getting him elected again, because he should have already been reelected. That's my opinion. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I don't even think if he's convicted, I don't think it will change his supporters. I mean, in the last election, we had numerous Republicans who came out and said, we're not going to support Trump. They ran campaign ads. What was the big one? The Lincoln Group or something like that.
Yeah, the Lincoln Project.
They called themselves.
Yep.
And, they spent millions and millions of Republican donor dollars to run against Trump. And Trump still almost won. And he got more votes than he did in 2016. So even with major Republican players working against him, he almost pulled off the election. And now you've got 4 years of Biden who has not inspired anyone, right? I mean, the best thing you can say about Biden is, well, he's not Trump. I mean, if you're going, what do you say? The economy's not any good. We're not doing much to help Ukraine. Climate control's out of control.
Climate control's out of control. It's freaking hot in here.
He couldn't control the Supreme Court, which, we knew he couldn't. But, women are fighting for their rights. Other minority groups are worried. I was reading an article about Justice Alito, the reason why he ruled the way he did. His quote in his answer from the court was, well, women didn't have the right to an abortion before Roe v. Wade, so therefore it was never in the Constitution. And then think about that, what that opens up. That's Alito's reasoning for overturning Roe v. Wade. Okay, well, black people didn't always have the right to vote. Women never had the right to vote. So is Alito
this all lends itself, though, to what's Joe Biden done for me.
Exactly.
So it's more of a lesser, it's again, we're back to what a lot of people felt in 2016, right? Which was this whole, I'm just choosing between, we've had 2 basically presidential elections in a row, right? Where people have basically been.
Well, and Hillary, like it or not, was tied to Bill Clinton.
Right.
We already had Bill Clinton for 8 years.
Yeah.
And Hillary was there as the pseudo vice president.
Right. I was going to say, Hillary's been around every bit as long as Biden in terms of being visible.
Secretary of State under Obama. So she was around.
Well, and she was senator.
Right. From a state that she never lived in. So, but anyway, the Kennedys did that too. It's okay.
It happens.
And the guy,
the game,
the guy who wanted to be the senator from Pennsylvania did the same thing.
Here's the
Republican.
You say that it doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters.
Or it doesn't matter enough to matter.
Yeah.
I do want to ask our producer something though, because we've been, trying to teach him some about government. So we're gonna quiz time. How do we choose?
Who's running for president?
How do we choose for president, Levi? How do we make that decision? How does the country elect a president? How do we do that?
We vote him in.
Who does? Who votes him in?
The people.
Do the people elect the president of the United States? What's that fancy system we talked about called?
Think back to government class last year.
I did that thing on the whiteboard where I explained how states have different levels of power.
I don't know if it was in that TV show you watched or not, but
do we just take everybody that votes on election day, add them all up, and whoever got more wins? Is that how we do it for president?
Oh, no.
No, it's not, right? What do we do?
Electoral college.
Yeah,
right?
The electoral college, right?
How's their football team going to be this year? The electoral college. They're going to have a good team?
Football team.
Yeah, can they play out?
Okay, yeah.
Can they hang with Alabama and Ohio State?
The old man humor is going over his head. You're hurting him. Okay.
No football team.
So Levi,
no football team.
Here's the thing to understand, right? Throw out the popular vote because that doesn't matter. The question of whether or not Trump's potential conviction matters comes down to a question, right, of how did he win the White House in 2016? Well, it was by a slim margin, and he lost, right, in the Electoral College by a slim margin. So if that's the case, for example, Michigan, right, having gone to Biden instead of Trump, only by like 60 or 80,000 votes, though. So it's not so much about, in my mind, it's not so much about whether those people that voted for Trump, right, can be convinced to vote for Biden. It's just a question of whether or not they vote at all. So yeah, I don't think it matters at all.
But if you think the election was stolen from your candidate, doesn't that
you're not going to change those people's minds?
Okay, but doesn't that give you the impetus to go vote again? I mean, now I'm going to go history on you. Andrew Jackson and John Quincy Adams. When Jackson got the most votes from the people, and Andrew Jackson got the most votes in the Electoral College, but he didn't get a majority. So then it goes to the House, and there's supposedly a political deal made, and Henry Clay becomes,
Secretary of State, and John Quincy Adams
becomes
the
president. Right?
And then in the next election, people are
irate, and so Jackson wins in a landslide and unseats a pretty good president in John Quincy Adams.
Yeah.
Just because the people felt like the election was, air quotes here, stolen from them.
Right.
That's been Trump's, whether it actually was or wasn't, right? I mean, I can't, like you said, you're not going to convince the people who think it was, even though all the facts show that, no, it wasn't stolen from him. But if people believe that, whatever happens to Trump in court's not going to change their mind.
No.
They're going to go ahead and vote anyway.
And I agree with you there. I don't think that his trials, if anything, his trials solidify the base support. The question comes down to those, quote unquote, valuable swing voters who voted for Trump once, voted for Biden, and now have to decide, well, we voted for both of them, so who we voting for this time around? And we're weighing that option.
No labels.
Yeah, please. If you haven't listened to that show, folks, go listen to it, because holy moly, if there was ever a time, now's the time. But that's what I'm getting at in the way of math. If too many of them stay home because they don't like the air surrounding Trump, that might have an impact for Biden from an electoral college standpoint. The other thing I'd mention about, the election being, stolen is just that it's worth putting out there too, that an important difference between the election with John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson and this election would be that nobody in that case made it to the electoral count required, and it was thrown to Congress. That's not what happened when Trump got unseated. He did not win the popular vote or the electoral college. So there was he didn't win, he won nothing, So on the other hand, John Quincy Adams had won, some states, and nobody made it to what the Constitution said was the requirement.
Okay, I'm done bargaining. What's my next stage?
What do you got? Depression.
Oh, yeah, I'm there. Okay.
I'm there.
I bargained.
I did the bargain, and there's no hope. Okay. But
I didn't know what it was, but that's where I am. I'm depressed.
The last piece of the bargaining is, you said it, no labels, right? We got to throw that in there. Of the bargaining component is that there's still...
That's what could pull me out of my depression.
That's what could pull you back. You could come back to bargaining. So depression, this one's really short. The author didn't have a lot to say about this. I always knew the 21st century would pull something like this. That's depression. Gosh darn it, the modern era, it's come for us.
Man, my depression's deeper than that.
Well, we're going to talk about Lance's depression. Keep it here on The State of Us, and we'll be right back. Depression. Now, I tell you what, folks, we've been doing this show for how long? 11, 12 years? Going on 12 years this November, I think, is the deal. So we've been doing this show for 12 years. I'm not sure that we've ever done a show where we were going to get to talk about the deep-seated depression of Mr. Lance Jackson. So I'm excited, which seems odd for a segment starting with depression. But we get to cover some new ground. This is stuff we've not covered before. So you said your depression is a lot more deep-seated than the author's, which you just said. I always knew the 21st century would pull some crap like this of a double, triple, quadruple rematch between two people that nobody wants for president of the United States, the most important job in the world.
Well, most of the time when I vote for president in my lifetime, and I go all the way back,
which is a long lifetime,
to 1980.
You were alive for the John Quincy Adams, and
I was
and Andrew Jackson.
But the first time I was old enough, the first time I was old enough to vote was in 1980.
When was John Quincy Adams president, Levi? How old would that make Mr. Jackson? It's like, man, there was a history question and a math question there.
A couple hundred years.
Pretty good.
Well, good.
It was 1824 election.
Yep. I was going to say that. See?
So
yeah.
you were all
That's
over.
yeah.
You just took it right out of my mouth.
That's right.
See?
It was on the tip of his tongue. Anyway, go ahead.
But no,
Your
it's
deep-seated
just,
depression.
and this is where we are. This is
what we get
at the back end of my life. This is what I've been given after I've devoted my life to learning.
No, this is what you're getting
our
punished
government,
with.
and our history, and spending the time opening the minds of young people. I mean, it would be depressing to go into class right now and say, okay, folks, this is where our great Constitution and our government and political parties, this is the pinnacle. This is the apex of everything it's depressing. Really? This is what we have? Two old geezers who have no business being president?
So it was a lot better 30, 40 years ago.
Well, we were running. Yeah, it was. It was. And I'm not even going to go back to the president when I was born, John F. Kennedy, all right, or Lyndon Johnson. And then you have Nixon, who the author says his mom was going to move to Canada over, which I don't blame her. I mean, everybody talks about impeaching Trump and impeaching Biden. We didn't get to impeach Nixon because he resigned before he was impeached, because he would have been impeached and probably voted out of office. So he ran, just so you know, before he could be impeached, he left.
I have a book signed by Richard Nixon. Fun fact. Anyway.
And what people don't realize is Nixon was probably one of the greatest 20th century foreign policy presidents. Horrible person.
Yeah.
But
detestable human being.
Right.
But important history lesson, which we've talked about this on the show. Some of the presidents that arguably were the most effective were not very good people.
It's just, yes, Levi, in all seriousness, it was different. It was a time when, there were Republicans and Democrats sitting down and making policy together. What, were the power brokers still there? Yes. Did they pull people's, strings, and did they control things? And was the common man really not a part of things? Yes. But
there was hope.
A Republican president could get something done with a Democratic Congress. And that's the way it's supposed to work. And now we've gotten to the part where even if a Democratic or a Republican president has a Republican Congress, they still can't get things done.
Right.
Even when they can't even get things done when they control both houses of Congress and the White House. We can't get things done because there are splinter groups within the major groups of Republicans and Democrats. So, yes, to answer your young probing mind question, which was a very good one, to me, the last 40 years, there was a difference.
Depression, isn't depression number one on the list now? I mean, we didn't get to it till number 4 here, but really, I don't know about the rest of this. I think depression sums it up in an important and powerful way, because if you think about what is politics supposed to be, what's the act of running for president supposed to be? Running for office is supposed to be, I think, and this is just an opinion, an act of hope. That's what it should be about.
Well, that's what Barack Obama ran on.
Right.
Hope.
Yeah. But I mean, just, you can go back even before Obama. Like, why was JFK so popular? Those types of messages, right? The things that inspire people to believe.
But one by one, it's one of the narrowest margins in American history. So he really wasn't that popular. See, I got to correct you as a teacher.
That's right.
Everybody wants to say that
dying really helps your popularity.
Exactly. But he won in one of the closest elections in America. So he really wasn't that popular.
True.
Half the country hated him.
Yes. Vehemently. But hope in politics, while yes, there's always that other side, the fact that we've gotten so far away from that, I don't meet many people that are really hopeful about what Trump or Biden might do.
Or the next 4 years.
Right.
What does that mean?
It's mainly like, oh God, what's next?
We lived with President Trump. Okay. in a very close election, we said, okay, we're going to switch horses. Okay. I don't know anybody that's been excited about the last 8 years. And now we're looking at, that's the depression. Now we got 4 more years. It's going to be Trump, which I didn't like those 4 years, or it's going to be Biden, and I haven't liked his 3. And so now I'm faced with another, and I'm getting old. I mean, when am I going to, am I going to get a good president again? You know, am I going to get somebody?
It's a fair question.
Before I go to, worship my trees and whatever. It's like, my gosh.
Well, and we have
I don't have a good baseball team this year, and I can't get a good presidential candidate. It's like, I am deeply depressed.
We have a whole group of new voters, too, for this election, right? Who, to your point, very important point, all they've ever known is that all they've ever seen
We got one sitting in there.
All these people in their lives that they respect, and I'm motioning here to Lance and me. I don't know that Levi likes us very much, but I do think he respects you. So but the point being is he sees us so disenfranchised and so out of sorts over these candidates. But Levi's not even been alive or not alive and old enough to even like experience a hopeful presidential election.
No, this is his first one.
They've all been, they've all been nasty and they've all been angry. And
he doesn't know that. He only knows that because you're telling him. He was too busy watching TikTok videos. He didn't pay any attention to the other elections.
Yeah.
So we got to fire him up to vote in 2024 because this is the first one.
Well, the last stage, folks, is acceptance. Acceptance. What's wrong with bowing to the truth that democracy, the worst political system except for all the others, as Winston Churchill said, sometimes produces stupid results? Maybe Trump versus Biden is the price we pay for the childish messes that we, the people, like to be free to get ourselves into from time to time. I'm still hoping that American voters, or Americans' traditional dumb luck, will find a way to avoid stage 5. Sometimes these things work themselves out in unexpected ways. My mother never moved to Canada, but Nixon left the White House and returned to California earlier than he planned. Yeah, acceptance is not where we want to get, folks. I don't think that we want to accept that this is the way it's going to be. If anything else, the fact that you had, because this has happened in the last 8 years, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure memory serves right. In the last 8 years, we've had presidents from both major political parties, and during both of their presidencies, there has been a time when they each controlled the president and both houses of Congress, and we've done less legislating, less headway, and American voters are less hopeful than they've been in like over a century. But back in 2016, Justin and Lance both said, don't you dare vote for that frickin' third party because you're going to be the reason.
Mr. Gary Johnson?
That you get the guy that, So I wonder if our former other personality who might have voted for Gary Johnson actually is listening. But so people are going to say that, right? They're going to say, you guys said, here's the distinction though.
But see, I don't want to vote for either one of the two candidates. So I'm really pushing for a third party.
But we said that after there were only 2 viable nominees. We're early enough in the cycle right now that we all, as the people, have to keep saying, no, we want a different choice. This is how it looks like it's going. We are over a year out from the election. We want a different choice. We want a different choice. We don't want these 2 jokers. We're not okay with this. That's what continues to push groups like No Labels to say, let's find the people that can inspire. Let's find the ones that are a real, not a, hold my tongue and look the other way and like. You don't
think either the Republicans or Democrats. Yeah. You don't think either the Republicans or Democrats will blink and choose a different candidate? You think they're going to go to battle?
The battle suits them.
Yeah.
That's what we've talked about. Why? Who cares if the American people like you or not? They hate the other guy more.
But you don't think that either one of them are going to pull my third party candidate, and I'm going to have to vote for a third party candidate. And
the problem is, I think if you do that right now, like if the Republicans did that right now, I think Trump's running third party, because he's got enough
then no
time
labels
now.
can run. We'll have 4 candidates. That'd be cool.
Then we can have a repeat.
Yeah,
of the
we can go
John
to
Quincy.
See, now that would be exciting as a former history teacher.
That would be very
to
exciting.
go to the House of Representatives
that
for the
would
vote
be,
because the Electoral College. I would enjoy that year.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I don't
It'd be
even care who
entertaining.
wins.
That'd be entertaining, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm
I
all
don't
for
know
that
how
one.
the country would feel about all that. but-
I'd like that.
So
Now you got me excited. I'm out of my depression.
the big thing is take time to research what's going on right now, folks. Trump and Biden are not the only
The
options.
schools won't help you.
There it is from our producer. You can't rely on the education system to tell you anything about this. So go research. One of the ones that we want you to go take a look at is nolabels.org. They don't have any candidates yet. And I think that should tell you how serious they are about this. We're not looking to be a spoiler. That's why we ain't got any candidates yet, because we're not going to even have any candidates if something changes, if what we've talked about happens and somebody else other than Trump and Biden emerges as like, hey, this is somebody Americans want. Great. We don't need candidates. But we're prepared to put forward some serious candidates because we can't let these two jokers be the option again. That we can't do.
If Trump doesn't get the Republican nomination and he runs as a third party, he becomes Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Because Theodore Roosevelt was president, decided not to run, anointed William Howard Taft. Taft was president for 4 years, and Roosevelt didn't like what Taft had done to the Republican Party. So he ran again as a third party candidate and allowed the Democrat Woodrow Wilson to win.
See, I should run because I'm not old enough, but I should run because I instilled hope in you. See, there you go. So why?
I'd run if somebody give me millions and millions of dollars to do it.
I'll see. Actually, you know what? I don't need to bother. I think our producers probably got that rolling around.
I could
on the
probably
floor of
win
his car,
Champaign
so.
County.
Well, that'll pretty much do it because everybody's heard.
Well, that's more than FDR did.
That's true.
FDR was elected 4 times and never won his home county.
Yeah. Oh boy. Anyway, folks, why do we have the show today, Lance? There is a reason.
Oh,
right?
yeah, because we have a mission here where we work, this place called True Chat. And the mission is to educate people by providing honest, open, and respectful conversations. And I think we did that today because we kept our intern awake and it was on politics. So it really was a good show. You need to tell your family and friends. And when they say, well, I don't really want to get this information secondhand, how do I listen to it? Well, you can tell them that we're on Spotify, Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere podcasts are found.
The State of Us releases new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday, first thing in the morning as a podcast. Those same episodes are heard on the weekends on AM and FM radio stations across the United States and parts of Canada. For The State of Us, I'm Justin T. Weller.
I'm Lance Jackson.
Special thanks to producer Levi LaForge and senior producer Bradley Butch. Thank you to Diana and, of course, to our audience for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Be the change. Be sure to check out our website, thestateofus.org, for books, articles, and all the ways to tune in. thestateofus.org.